Where would we be without the Asylum? What crappy shark movies would we talk about without the Asylum? There's just so freaking many. I need to do a video on the history of ridiculous shark movies because I'm sure the Asylum is a part of the big giant explosion of all of these in the 2000s, them and sci-fi, but that's a video for another day. There's so many Asylum movies about sharks that they actually made two that are basically the same idea, to the point where it makes me wonder if somebody in that studio was like, a fully submerged world ruled by sharks. Give me two scripts about it! And they accepted them. So we're going to compare them today. This is a 2-for-1 ridiculous shark movie review. Planet of the Sharks versus Empire of the Sharks. Let's talk about it. Planet of the Sharks sounds a lot like Planet of the Apes. And it does actually reference that movie with Statue of Liberty. And that's about it. It's ruled by sharks. There's no extra villain. It's just sharks that have evolved. And there's like a queen shark that can control the other ones. And there's a shark swarm. And there's just a whole lot of jumping sharks. Sharks jumping out and grabbing people off their shitty little rafts and floating towns and all that sort of thing. The movie opens up with everyone getting murdered on this crappy outlying town, except for one person, and that survivor floating off and joining the rest of the group. But the plot of this movie is not necessarily worth explaining bit by bit. There's a lot of fast and loosey-goosey science in this one. There's a team of scientists that have some kind of more established science station where they plan to shoot a rocket up and reverse global warming, I guess. And spoiler alert, they do. After they kill the queen shark via something or other, they reverse global warming, and the last shot is like the Statue of Liberty being above water finally. Like, I think in the course of like 6 months, they reverse it to the point where I think the water level goes down by like hundreds of feet. Now keep in mind, if this was going to be a completely water world, it would have to have a sea level of like ridiculous, right? Just completely ridiculous. I don't know why I'm talking about the scientific accuracy of a movie that features giant, aggressively predatory sharks, but here we go. Empire of the Sharks, on the other hand, has a lot of futuristic stuff, but mostly features a villain that's controlling the shark population via science and actually dabbles into mysticism and humans controlling sharks via magic and that sort of thing. There's kind of more of a Waterworld-ish feel to this one, and just how the villains look, how the sets look, that sort of thing. I will say one thing I did not notice in Empire of the Sharks as opposed to Planet of the Sharks is some kind of major water break pointing out that maybe Planet of the Sharks was not filmed at a very deep water set. I don't know. I don't know where it was filmed, but it looks a little better in Empire of the Shark. I just liked Empire of the Shark more. I think it's the villains, right? Like, this movie stars John Savage as the villain. John Savage being an actor that's been around forever. His biggest role is probably in Deer Hunter. He was one of the guys in Deer Hunter, which is a pretty serious acting movie. And John Savage comes at his villain in this one, not necessarily with over-the-top villainy. He just kind of feels like sort of an evil, like, middle management guy. Like, I appreciated his... There's a lot of overacting sometimes in these shark movies, which actually there's kind of an overactor in this movie, which pairs well with the other villain, who's a little more on the level. Like, John Savage just does a good job in here, probably because he's John Savage. I mean, he was in Deer Hunter, for God's sake. He probably could do this in his sleep. But him and the other villain, who is just kind of the slimy henchman of his that can control the sharks with the technology, form a good pair to just kind of keep the movie moving along at a good acting rate, if you will. Now, the CGI is what you expect it to be. It's not necessarily as bad as you expect it to be, but this is a movie that actually has some decent shots for once. There's shots near the end of the movie where like the mystic shark caller lady is like commanding these sharks, and it's up close, and it's kind of like misty in the water, and she's underwater. It's just, I don't know if it just works. I guess. I will say the one downfall of this movie is that with a cast of characters that's actually pretty interesting and varied, the main character, holy crap, I'm trying to, what is his name? Timur. Jack Armstrong is the actor. When I looked on his IMDb, Jack Armstrong's only full length film role was this movie, and I can understand why because he is not good. Like for as major a role as he has in this movie, he is not a good actor. I'm sorry, Jack Armstrong. You're probably not going to watch this because I'm just some idiot on YouTube. But I mean, here's how I'm going to describe it. There are times where, or maybe it's the writing. There's times where this character, as the lead character, hero, whatever, is wishy-washy. There are times where it seems like he is not good at anything. There are times where Jack just is kind of staring, unblinking off at a different character in a way that makes it seem like there is literally no person over there. And even though I know he's supposed to be talking to that person, he's just watching that character in a way that looks like he's intensely farting. Like he's not. There's a lot of things about this character that don't work very well. He does stupid things when it comes to interacting with people, when it comes to piloting the submarine. He like almost kills himself in a different character with that way. He's never shown having a saving the cat moment. I didn't see a reason why I should like this particular character, which makes it even more weird when everyone seems to be following his lead. In the end, he does do a whole bunch of crap at the ending sequence in order to save the day and everything, but up until that, it just kind of seems like a bumbling goofball idiot with no real talents or leadership and is acted poorly. So that's maybe the worst part about this movie. Everyone else kind of holds their own. But Jack Armstrong as the lead man, Timur, not so good. But I do recommend Empire of the Shark, I guess. It just kind of seems like it's got some fun ideas. It surprises sometimes in who gets killed. It's not terribly acted. It's not terribly CGI'd. It's pretty good. The funny thing about this movie and Planet of the Sharks is actually that there is the same characters in it. So technically, this is part of the same story, I guess you could say. The main character in Planet of the Sharks, Captain Barrick, I want to say William Barrick? Can't find it, but he's the main character of the Planet of the Sharks, and he's one of the people that they ask to captain a crew to help save the day from these jerks controlling all the shark horde. So now that means that in Planet of the Sharks, they eventually raise the ocean, but in Empire of the Sharks, there's no land whatsoever, so it has to be before Planet of the Sharks or during. It's probably it's probably silly to think about the connections between these two movies, but does that mean there'll be a third movie with this character?